watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Hello, I am your Superintendent, Jason Manuel. Today our show will highlight Matt Cain, three-time World Series winner and Houston High School alumni. We will visit with Shannon, this month's teacher feature, as she shares best practices from her math classroom, and later in the show we'll enjoy a Bollywood performance by Houston Middle student Misha Agrawal in our Student Live segment. But first, we will check in with students Emma Adair and Agustina Naldoza of the Houston Middle Cross Country team, who are returning home from the big state competition with some hardware. Thank y'all for being here today. So you had some exciting time. When was it? This past weekend or this past 2 weeks before that? When did y'all go to state?
We were in Knoxville for our state meet. We did it last year too. It was this weekend. And it was a lot of fun.
So you had some success. What did y'all win? Tell us about how you placed.
We got first place varsity girls, and JV placed first in the girls, and both boys teams placed fourth.
Oh, that's exciting. So we got to tell our host, our guest, a little bit about cross country, because they may not understand what you're doing and how it adds up and how do you win, because I think they understand running as being an individual sport. So tell us a little bit about what it means to be a team with cross country. So first, how far are you running?
We've run about 2.1 miles in our meets, and then our practices go to like 3 to 4 miles. 3
to 4 miles. So you run farther than you actually run in the race itself.
Yes, sir.
So how is it a team sport then? So if you're all out there running, and first of all, how many people run at once for your team?
The varsity team, there's top 7 girls, and the JV are just the people who didn't make the varsity team.
And so how many of them get to run? All of them get to run? So how do they do the scores for the JV and varsity team? How do you decide if you won at state? Do they add it up, or are they keeping track of everybody's times, or is it how you place?
I think they add up the places.
The places to figure out?
Yes.
So how did y'all place?
I came overall 18th for varsity.
Oh wow! And that's for the state.
Yes.
And how did you place?
I got in the top 30.
Oh, that's exciting. Now, did y'all do well as far as your times? Do you keep track of like how well you're running at each time?
Yes.
Or I ran cross country in high school, and so I always knew like this was my best time, or I was a little bit off of my time. How did y'all do this past weekend?
It could have been better, but I had a good race with my teammates and the other girls.
And I think it's for me it was always hard because when you're in a race, my nerves were, elevated and I'm anxious. And then when people would pass me, it would mess up my pacing. That was always a challenge for me when I was running, to not get caught up and try to chase them, instead race my own race. So this isn't something that you just started this year, is it? Y'all both been running for a little bit?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been running?
I've been running since I was 6 years old. I started with Saints Track and Field, and I've just went on from running from there.
So where did you go to elementary school?
I went to Farmington Elementary.
Now, did you run at Farmington when you were at Farmington?
Yes, sir.
So who was your coach at Farmington?
Mario, Mr. Mario.
Coach Mario?
Yes.
So did he run long distances with you?
He ran with us.
Now, how did he get you ready for the middle school? Do you think that you were prepared compared to other girls?
Yes.
And how you run?
I ran in the 5th grade with the middle school, so Mr. Mario trained us pretty good.
So you were seeing what it takes to be a middle school runner when you were
Yes.
already in elementary school. Now, what about you? When did you start running?
I started running last year, so this would be my 2nd year running with the cross-country team. It was a lot of fun. I didn't run in elementary. I really didn't know about an elementary cross-country team. So
this is your 2nd year. So let's talk about Houston Mill, since y'all are both on the team. Who are your coaches? I think you know some of them pretty well. Who coaches the middle school cross-country team?
David Adair.
And how do you know David Adair?
He's my dad.
He's your dad. Now, does he get out? Was he a runner? Does he get out and run with you?
Yes, a lot.
So do y'all have any other people who help with the cross-country team?
Coach Nicole.
Coach Nicole. And what does Coach Nicole do? Do they split up which teams, like one doing JV and varsity?
My dad usually runs up at the front, and Coach Nicole usually runs in the back,
And helps.
so to keep everyone together.
And pace. Now, do y'all run at the same spots, or do y'all change where y'all practice and run?
Our practice locations change. On Wednesdays, we would be at the school, and then certain locations like mean a certain practice. So we go to Shelby Farms on Saturdays, and we do hills and repeats, like 800s. And then Mondays are meet days. Tuesdays, we don't have practice. Wednesdays, school. Thursday, no practice. Friday, no. Thursday, we do have practice, and that's our long runs, or we do more hill work. And Friday, there's no practice.
Oh, wow. Now, running itself, it's fun to win, and it's fun to do well, but that's not the only reason you do this, is because you just want to win. If other girls were thinking, hey, or boys for that matter, think, I might consider doing cross country, what would you tell them? Why do you do and run cross country? Is it just for the winning?
No, I just feel like it's the right sport for me, and it just makes me happy. And yeah.
Now, do you hang out with the girls on your team besides when y'all are out there practicing and running?
Yes.
How many of them are your friends outside of cross country? A lot?
All of them.
All of them?
Yes.
Is it like a family? Is it a group of friends that y'all hang out with? What
we're
about
very
you?
close.
If you were what advice would you give somebody who said, I might want to do cross country in middle school? What would you tell them?
I would say you should do it. People on the team are so nice. Everyone's so encouraging. They always want to be with you, and it just makes you feel really welcomed on the team.
So tell us a little bit about some of your teammates, since we're talking about some of those friends you have on your team. Y'all have some really good runners on this team too. Have anybody set records that you know of on your team?
Yes, Zoe Marsh, she's in 6th grade. She's ran the fastest 2-mile for a 6th grader in the nation.
Oh my goodness.
And then Gracie Owens, I think she has the fastest 2-mile in 7th grade in the state.
Oh, so y'all have some really good runners that are running with you. Is it hard to keep up with those two?
Yes.
Do you have trouble pacing when they're going by you? Now, when y'all are practicing, are y'all just running all out, or are y'all running as a group when y'all are practicing? Does it depend on what you're doing?
It depends. Sometimes we run as a group together if it's an easy run, and when we have hard practices, we kind of like break up into groups where we're usually like the same times and stuff.
Now, it looks like y'all are set up, so you won state this past year. How did y'all do last year, you said?
The varsity girls got second, and the junior varsity girls got first place.
So you have gotten better than what you did last year.
Yes.
I think what's exciting for us is we always want our students in Germantown to excel. And when I hear that we've got girls who are breaking records and y'all are winning state at the middle school level, and we see it growing at the elementary school level at Dogwood and Farmington and Riverdale, when y'all get to the high school, y'all are going to dominate all the other teams that are there. So last bits of advice for kids who think they want to do cross country. Who do they need to talk to? What do they need to do to become a cross country runner? When y'all start up again? Are y'all done right now because y'all are at the end of the state, or do you know y'all have
We have nationals, and then after that, cross country kind of ends, and then we have track season.
So they could come out for track season if they're interested.
Yes.
Well, thank y'all for being here, and congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
The work being done with these Houston Middle School students is exceptional. During the break, we'll enjoy a performance by another HMS student, Misha Agrawal, who is getting ready for India Fest at the Agri Center on November 4th.
कर डाला तेरा नहीं तेरा कोई दोष दोष मत होश तू हर वक्त वक्त तू चीज बड़ी है मस्त मस्त
मैं चीज बड़ी हूँ मस्त
चीज बड़ी
कर डाला ना होश किसी ने संभाला तेरा नहीं तेरा कोई दोष दोष तेरा हुस्न ही जबरदस्त दस्त तू चीज बड़ी है मस्त मस्त तू चीज बड़ी है मस्त तू चीज बड़ी है मस्त मस्त
मैं चीज बड़ी हूँ मस्त
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back to Spotlight on Excellence. Our schools are full of talented students and alumni. We would like to welcome one of Houston High's most distinguished graduates here in the studio. Matt Cain has played 13 seasons in Major League Baseball for the San Francisco Giants. A three-time World Series champion, he is regarded as a central figure of the Giants' success and is one of 23 professional baseball players to have pitched a perfect game. Thanks for being here, Matt.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all.
So really, I just want to sit and visit with you about your time here at Houston. So what year did you graduate from Houston High School?
Back in 2002.
2002.
A few years back.
Now, did you play baseball all 4 years at Houston?
Yeah, I did. Luckily, they let me play all 4 years. You know, so it was definitely great to be able to start as a freshman and finish out as a senior.
So tell us about your experience playing baseball at Houston. When you look back, and it's always hard, there's going to be highs and lows. What was one of your best moments when you were playing baseball for Houston?
I believe it was either my freshman year or sophomore year was just making it through as the JV team, making it through the district. I think we actually won. I think we won that JV district. I think we'd end up beating, I believe it was Colleyville at the time. It was just a fun experience just to be able to go through that and to have that pressure put on you to know, hey, like if we win, we know we beat everybody in our area. If we lose, we didn't.
Right.
It was just a fun time to go through with the guys, and it brings that group of you know, kids together, and you start to make a little bit more of a bond and a friendship, you know, going through those moments, you know, as a kid.
Now, you talk about those moments and that stress of feeling like, okay, if we do this, we're going to be the best in the area.
Right.
There are also lows that you experience
Oh, yeah.
when you're playing for Houston and playing sports for Houston. How do you think those lows and those moments prepare you for moving on to the next step, whether it's in athletics or business or whatever you move on to?
I think they're huge. I think they're very instrumental in being able to bring out your flaws in some public situations and to show you how you're going to react to them. I mean, I was one of the guys that cost us as my junior year to not go to state playing Germantown. I had an easy ground ball to me at third, and I threw it away. You know, it was one of those to where, and I took it to heart the next day. I took it to heart. I saw my name in the newspaper of like, hey, you made a big mistake. You know, and I felt it that next day at school, but it was more inward.
Right.
But it was something that helped me push myself to be, you know, more of an adult, and even more as I went into the pro ball career. It definitely shaped me as a person.
I think one of the hardest things for me to imagine is actually being a pitcher. I had to do coach league with my son. It was awful because just with 30 parents watching me, and once I start going off, I'm a wreck. How do you do that? Really have that sports memory when you were playing? How do you make sure that if you're not on your A game, how do you make sure that you get past it and do your best?
Yeah, and that was something that I think my parents and some of the coaches that I had along the way, they really instilled in me is, you know what, I might be able to get away with some days that I'm not performing very well if I can keep my composure and my mannerisms kind of inward and keep a little bit of a blank face. So I tried to carry that over as a young age and even into the pro ball career is, you know what, I'm going to kind of hide from the other team that I might not feel like I have my best stuff that day, but I'm going to make it feel like they think I do. So I'm going to have that composure and that mannerism on the mound. Is like, hey, I'm coming out here to compete. You know, it's game on once the game starts.
Now, how much is it routine? So when you're out there and you're getting ready to pitch, are you going through the same motions, or are you actually having internal dialogue? Or are you actually thinking, oh my goodness, this guy's taking me to the yard? You know, the last 3 times I've pitched against him. How do you deal with it? Are you actually thinking through what I'm pitching next, or are you just going through a robotic motion when you're up there on the mound?
I think it goes through all of it. I think as the game starts to get closer, I believe you do go through, you know what, hey, what have I done against this player or this team? And you start to kind of build a little bit of a history the more that you do it, which can be a good thing and a bad thing, because the bad things kind of can creep in. So I think as the day kind of progresses and you get closer to the game, you kind of do think back on some of the stuff.
Right.
But once you get into, hey, I'm going to go out there, and you start actually physically doing the pitching and, you know, whatever sport it is, you start to get away from that, and you start to just think more of, okay, what am I doing today? How can I fix it if I need to change things? So it's a little bit of all of it. I mean, I think you go through the full gamut of
Right.
it. And as a starting pitcher, it was a little crazy because we had so many days to sit there and think about it.
Right. Oh, that's a challenge. Well, let's talk back about Houston High School. When you look back, what is one teacher or 2 teachers that really had an impact on you that you think, I really enjoyed that class, I enjoyed that coach? Tell us about some of those teachers who had an impact on your life.
I mean, there were so many people. I think the biggest influence I had was Mr. Atkins. Just his presence around the entire school. He just did such a tremendous job of taking an effort in learning guys' names. Like it fascinated me that he knew everybody's name in the school, and he knew first name, last name, and knew brothers and sisters. And I think he kind of was just such a big influence for me. I mean, obviously being the stature he was, but
Yes.
then, you know, Coach Holmes and Coach Humes, those guys, just because they had my brother as an older guy, and they were able to push guys. And I mean, I'm not gonna, Coach Mack and Coach Day were so magical in my career and just in life for me, getting through school. They did so many good things and helped me out, whether it was just pulling me off to the side and saying, hey, maybe you should do these things, or
Right.
maybe you should not do these things. So they did a great job of really relating to me, and that's the amazing part about the teachers. When they get that relationship with the kids I think can perform at such a better level. And
Yes.
it's amazing when you see that light click on with certain teachers and certain students.
And I always say that to our teachers. They're not going to remember that you had a great lesson, but they're going to remember that you knew who they were, that you knew about their family, you knew about their friendships. It's that personal relationship that's important.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about advice. So our Houston athletes that we have now, what advice would you give them for if they want to go on and look at playing in college or playing professionally? What would you tell them if you were going to give them some nugget of advice that you've learned?
I think the biggest thing is to enjoy it, and to be able to go out there and try to perform to the best that you can, and don't necessarily try to perform like somebody else that maybe looks like they're doing better. Really learn what your skill is, because that's what's going to make so many of the team sports a team. Is if everybody is going to be the same player on the same team, that team I don't think will end up working the correct way. If you can figure out your talent and your skill and what you're good at, and you can really and try to perfect that craft, I think that'll be amazing for a whole group of guys.
Well, I think that's advice for us, whether we're athletes or whether we're in the classroom or whether we're in the theater.
Exactly.
We can all take that to
Yes.
heart. Well, those are inspiring words and great advice for our current student athletes. When we come back, we will spend some time with Miss Shannon Ward, a 5th grade math teacher at Riverdale that is raising the bar in the classroom.
Maybe he's really focused.
Hey, Michael. Michael. Maybe he likes spinning the wheels.
Maybe he just loves trucks.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Preoccupation with objects is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I am Superintendent Jason Manuel. We want to spend our last moments highlighting an exemplary teacher in a segment we call the Teacher Feature. With us today is Shannon Ward, a 5th grade teacher from Riverdale Elementary School. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're here to learn a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what makes you exceptional. So first, tell us, how long have you been at Riverdale?
This is my 4th year at Riverdale. 2 years I was in 3rd grade, and then this is my 2nd year in 5th grade.
And what did you do prior to coming to Riverdale? How did education draw you in?
Yeah, so before Riverdale, I taught for Shelby County Schools for years as a kindergarten teacher right out of college. And after I did that, when I had my first baby, I have 3 children, I took some time off to be a mom. And during that time, I worked in 2 roles as an educator. One was I started a program for children that were struggling in 1st through 3rd grade with math at a private school here in town, and I enjoyed that very much. I got to work with my father, who is also an educator, a long time.
Were you always a math teacher, or what?
Math is very dear to my heart. I've always enjoyed teaching math. So, and then after that, I taught preschool for a couple years, and then when GMSD was turning into its own entity, I got a little, desire to check that out, and ended up getting a job and getting hired, and started that first year when we became our own system.
So tell us about Riverdale. So Mr. Bond must have seen your love for math or something in you. They said, maybe you aren't the kindergarten teacher. Maybe we want you
and at first I was definitely apprehensive. They talked me into 3rd grade. I shouldn't say they talked me into. I was more than happy to teach any grade. Riverdale is such an awesome place. I was just happy to be there. But they did have positions open in kindergarten and several other grades. So we talked about it, and they said, you need to be in a grade that's tested. You would just enjoy that. That would be a good challenge. So I started in 3rd grade and taught the old style math for 1 year. I say old style, but still we were starting to move towards a different. And then the 2nd year was when we adopted Eureka, and so I taught that in 3rd grade. And after that year I said to Mr. Bond and everybody else that would listen, you can move me as high as you want to move me. Just please don't ever make me go back down to the little ones. Because once I saw what they could do, it was amazing. And so the next year they let me go to 5th grade, and I just taught math last year in 5th grade. And so this year I'm doing the same thing and loving it.
3 sections of
3 sections of math.
math. Now you talked about the change that we've gone through in the state. So we had our old standards, and now we switched over to the new state standards, which are really based on the Common Core.
Right.
How is that different than the traditional way that we were teaching math?
This new way that we're teaching math is much more empowering for our students. It's remarkable to me to see the growth in them just as mathematicians, because the way that we're teaching it and the standards that we're meeting for them is enabling them to really process and understand the math, and leading them really just to become more confident in what they're doing.
So it's about process too. It's not just the right or wrong answer.
Exactly,
like it used
and
to be.
it's so much deeper thinking. These children are being asked to think in a way that's uncomfortable for a lot of adults because we never had to do it. And for me, the difference is when I was younger, I was a strong student. I was a very strong student, but I always did worse in math than I did in language arts. And it was frustrating because I kept thinking I should be better at this. I should know, I can do well in other subjects, until my freshman year in high school. And I had one of those math teachers, and she was before her time, and she taught like we teach now. And my whole world shifted.
Once you saw the rationale behind.
I saw the understanding and going back and understanding the whys and the hows and the process and these big math tasks versus the skill and drill and go and go. So once I saw that as a student, and I was fortunate enough to have her all 4 years, all the way through calculus.
Oh, wow.
That's when I knew the same could be done for our kids, even in elementary school.
Right.
So I kind of carried that with me through my education, and that's why when I started working with those struggling learners early on, it was always definitely close to my heart.
Oh, so you talked about teaching this new way of learning, the rationale behind it. What's a favorite teaching technique that you have in your classroom?
I do love using a tape diagram, which is a really funny story, because when we first started this math, and it was the first year, and I was teaching 3rd grade, this particular strategy called a tape diagram, which parents that are watching this, children will know what I'm talking about, was common in every single lesson in 3rd grade especially. And we would be like, why do they keep bringing up this tape diagram? But when we got to the end of it, and we saw what the children could do using this strategy, because it's a big help for them when they're trying to learn to solve word problems. Then we realized, and now in 5th grade, I tease the kids all the time when we go back and visit things that we've learned about how empowering those strategies are, because it gives them more tools. They're not just looking at things one way. When they use a tape diagram and they look at a picture, they have a better chance of understanding because they can look at it many different ways.
And you have a different perspective as a parent in the district also.
I do.
We talk about vertical alignment. So for the people watching at home, it's how does what I'm learning in kindergarten and 1st grade and 2nd relate to what I'm learning in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade? How has being a parent helped you in that process?
It's tremendous, again, with the math, because my first year teaching 5th grade last year, I also became the content math coach for Riverdale. So helped the district out by helping my teachers at my school. That particular year, I had see if you can follow this. I had a 4th grader in math then. I also had a child that was in 2nd grade. So both of those children had had the math the year before. So now you're looking at, I've had it all the way from 1st and I'm teaching 5th. Well, I also have a child last year that was in 7th grade.
Goodness.
So he had 2 years of it as well. So I literally had seen every single level of the Eureka. And when you start to make those connections, like you said, the vertical alignment, and you know why they're doing this at a young age and what that's going to mean for their development in a 5th grade, the buy-in for me was very easy when I could see my own children growing so much.
And becoming mathematicians.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, that doesn't mean we throw out old skills too.
No.
I think you're about to challenge me with something that may be a little more familiar. What are you going to challenge me with?
All right, so we do fluency every day in our classroom to keep our skills sharp and to make sure, old school, that we know our math facts and that we are definitely keeping up with things that we've got to have to build these great new strategies. So this is a math sprint that we used in 5th grade. So I brought one today, and I thought you and I, we won't do it. We won't do it for the full minute. We won't do the full minute. But basically what the children do is they race for a minute, and they do one, and we count how many we get correct. Now today we're just going to do a little bit. But what the kids would do in the classroom is they will do a second one and try to beat their score.
Oh, so they're racing against themselves.
It's not about a time to test. It's not how many can I do. It's can I beat my score.
And you also participate with them.
I love to race them. They love to race me.
So I'm going against a ringer is what you're telling me.
No, I have been beaten by many a 5th grader. My son included. It's very embarrassing.
Okay, well you say go and then we'll go for 15 seconds.
I'm going to say go and we'll go for about 15 seconds. I'll try not to look at yours. You ready?
Okay, ready?
Go. Okay, let's stop. How far did you get?
I got through 8.
That's pretty good. I got through 11. But see, we didn't see if they're right or wrong, so we can bet maybe mine are wrong. Good job.
I think it's important to see that we're blending the old strategies of work along with the rationale behind it with this Eureka Math. And we can't thank you for your commitment to making our students mathematicians.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Well, that's all we have time for on this month's Spotlight on Excellence. If you'd like more information about this or any other show on Germantown Municipal Television, visit us on our website at www.gmtvonline.org. Until next time, this has been Superintendent Jason Manuel for this month's installment of the Germantown Municipal School District's Spotlight on Excellence.